joining today's session. So before I start my presentation, if you guys have any query during the presentation, you can note down, put it in your question and answer window. And once the presentation is complete, I will answer all your query. So thank you very much. Let's start. So I'm handling Okta as a pre-sales consultant in Redington. So in future, if you have any requirement, you can reach out to me directly as well. And today's agenda for the webinar is the introduction to the Okta. I will introduce the single sign-on and the integration with Office 365, and a small video demo will also be there to showcase how Okta works with Office 365. So let's start. So first of all, Okta Identity Cloud has many different properties that makes it unique. First, it was born and built in the cloud. So from the day the company started, and the first line of code that they wrote, they built Okta as a cloud service. So you can't take some on-prem identity management software, put it into the cloud, and get what Okta has built. For example, you can't put Active Directory into the cloud and get Okta. So that fundamental aspect of being born and built in the cloud enable the other aspect of the Okta Identity Cloud. So that is most important, is to connect to everything. So we know that technology is changing faster than ever before. What your user need is different today than it was yesterday, and the only chance that one have to be successful is it if you connect everything. Okta's is also neutral, it's independent and unbiased. So we want to connect our customer to the technology that they want. We are not trying to connect them to a stack, like for example Microsoft wants you to use Office 365, OneDrive and Dynamic CRM. They don't want you to use Google Apps, Box or Salesforce. Okta wants you to use whatever technology going to make you successful. So we connect everything. By connecting everything, we preserve the choice that is fundamental for any customer, and that choice is just not today, but it's in future as well. And if we are going to do what Okta does, manage the millions of identity of the world's leading company, you have to be 100% secure, and Okta is. You can go onto the website and check all the compliance and the certification that Okta has in terms of security. And lastly, we have to be always on. So I will show you the next slide, that where are the Okta's data center. So these are the Okta's data center that currently present. So nearest one is of course in Germany and UK, and one in Sydney is also come up, and the new one in Singapore will come up very soon. And we are managing more than around 5,000 customer and 1.9 billion of identity. On top of that, we are getting 6 million daily unique visitor per day. So this is a huge number. And when we talk about this authentication, so in Okta there is two, I would say, licensing that is there. One is workforce identity and second one is customer identity. So workforce identity, that's the first one. It has the product like single sign-on, universal directory, lifecycle management, and so on. So this is for the internal employee, and for external employee with whom the company is dealing, for that we have a different licensing model, which is the customer identity. So based on the customer requirement, they will have to go with the different model and the product. The Okta Identity Cloud is a compromise of multiple product. Okta single sign-on, of course, to provide user with seamless access to all the application from any device with single entry of user credential. Then we have the universal directory that offers centralized view of user, application and device profile and the relationship with the organization. Universal directory can integrate with the existing directory store, or when it used to its fullest extent, it can serve as a system of record for all of an organization's internal as well as external users. So you can actually replace any other directory like ED, LDAP, and use the universal directory of Okta in the cloud. Then Okta Lifecycle Management is the extension of a provisioning product. So IT professional can use it to manage the entire identity lifecycle from onboarding to offboarding and ensure compliance requirements are met as user role evolve and access level change. Then we have the adaptive multi-factor authentication product, which equip you with an additional layer of application and data security, and that will help you to achieve the zero trust as well. And just this product secures the connection between user and application. So Okta API Access Management secures the connection between applications and the API that they call on behalf of the user. And then we have the developer tool and the SDK. So organization can leverage our platform to develop web or mobile application for their customers, suppliers, and partners. So when you want to use Okta as a authentication method in the cloud for your own website, you can use the Okta platform. You can develop your own application on top of our authentication method. Each one of this product, it combines to give you different feature and the functionality. And here's how the Okta addresses critical problem of access management. So you can see on the left side the IT challenges and the right side security challenges, with which each IT challenge there is different security challenge. For example, if you have to challenges in your organization that you require a more manual password reset request, you are getting that kind of request from the company's internal employee. So the security challenge remains that they should not use the same password. So this with Okta single sign-on, where they don't only have to remember one username and password, this request can be reduced to 75%, and it can save IT admin team time and the workload. And second one is the MFA and the Okta integration network. So whenever somebody is going or adapting a cloud, so the security challenges remains the explosion in the phishing attack. So with MFA specifically, you will get more productivity and less. You can even secure your authentication method and implement the zero trust. Then the life cycle management, onboarding and offboarding issue will be resolved, and you will have the 50% less audit cost using the life cycle management. And if you enable the access from anywhere, which is really important in today's environment where we are stuck right now, and the security challenge to implement the zero trust security, this can be achieved with identity driven security with the username and password. On top of that, you will implement the multi-factor authentication. So it's basically a rule combination of policies that you will define in Okta, and it will reduce approximately 75% of the breach. Universal directory, that is again as I discussed in previous slide, to have a one repository to store username and password, whether it's internal or external. And lastly, to support the hybrid IT, you will need a unified identity, which Okta will provide you at one central location. So these are some of the IT challenges and security challenges which can be resolved by the different Okta product. So let's move on to the Gartner report. What does Gartner say? So Okta created a new type of product. Gartner calls a portion of what Okta does is the identity as a service, or IDaaS. In that category, Okta is only company to have led the Magic Quadrant for every single year of its existence. All 3 years, Okta was the only company that been in the leader quadrant every single time from 2014 to 16. From last year, Gartner retired the last IDaaS Magic Quadrant in favor of one holistic access management Magic Quadrant that span both cloud and on-prem delivery model. And while the landscape look a little different, Okta is once again the leader. And Okta is only leader that is born and built in the cloud, while all others are thinking through how they adapt their legacy model to the cloud. And if you ask Gartner, they will tell you that Okta is a leader for a few reasons. So in the next few slides, I will dive deeper into the Okta single sign-on product. So when most people think of Okta and SSO, they think of this a web portal that easily accesses enterprise application on any device. It's easy and accessible, and it's always on. Okta single sign-on is integrated to everything and focus on complete user experience. Your customer will care about this because SSO help reduce help desk call, and it delights their end user by removing the frustration of managing multiple username and password. But Okta SSO is broader and more comprehensive than just a web portal. Our SSO product is built on top four pillar. First is integrated access management, customizable user experience, secure directory with integration, and lastly, real-time security reporting. So I will go into the detail of each of this pillar. First pillar is the integrated access management. So how do we enable authorization and access to all your application? So there are three components to this. Okta Integration Network or Okta Application Network is the largest and most reliable application network with over 6,500 pre-integrated application for SSO and over 700 SAML integration. And we have zero backlog in the integration. That means we support any application your customer would need, whether today or in the future, as they continue to grow and scale. In case where an integration doesn't yet exist, Okta supports wide range of integration to enable access through our SSO. And this is a case where your customer has custom homegrown application, or they might have a legacy on-prem application behind the firewall like Oracle or SAP. Okta's SWA or Secure Web Authentication, it's their own proprietary authentication method for form-based login. SAML is of course most important and widespread web-based federation protocol today. And WSFed and WSTrust are protocol pushed by Microsoft through though even they are adopting SAML more and more. OpenID Connect and OAuth are more modern mobile-friendly federation standard, and we expect that OpenID Connect to be a next SAML. So quick note is OAuth integration that requires our API access management product, which is a separate product and a SKU from the SSO. And to support legacy on-prem application, we can authenticate through Radius or through our network gateway partners like F5, Citrix, and Palo Alto. And a key aspect of how do we do SSO is our flexible policy engine. This engine allows admin to be very specific with how they manage authorization to resource and enforce right level of security. For example, this also integrates into the multi-factor authentication solution, whether it's Okta's own adaptive MFA or a third-party MFA such as RSA or Duo. So instead of immediately denying access, you can ask for additional authentication factor if there is any suspicious activity. The second pillar is the customizable consumer grade user experience. So of course you can upload the company's logo, you can change the look of the web page login if you know the coding, which is pretty standard these days. And all this thing which you see on the web browser is available on the mobile mobile application as well. So this is one of our customer who has uh, customized their login detail by uploading their own login logo. Third pillar is a secure directory with integration. So we have so far been talking about authorization and access side of the equation. But let's look at the authentication side of equation, and basically how do we verify a user? Customer will usually have their user stored in a directory like LDAP or AD, Active Directory. Okta integrate with this directory in order to verify a user. The most common directory we integrate with is the Active Directory. We also see LDAP, but not as much. So either way, Okta integrates to both through a lightweight agent, which is Okta AD agent, which allows Okta to verify the user identity and then authorize the applications. So the agent sits on the existing server or anywhere inside the network behind the firewall. This means no additional hardware deployment and no changes to the firewall. So this is a big deal as some of our competition as a solution, especially legacy one, can take weeks, if not months, to properly set up. We also support multiple domain and the forest, and you might see this in companies with a several division or geography, perhaps the result of merger and acquisition. For customer who don't have user store in place like AD or LDAP and they want to get off this on-prem directory, Okta's universal directory product can act as a secure directory as well as becoming the source of truth for a user profile and credential. Even if customer have AD and LDAP, they might not want to put outside partners or temporary contractor in their on-prem directory like AD. Instead, user can be put into the universal directory. While Okta still master of an existing AD LDAP servers for the internal user. This really differentiates us in some of the competition as they can't act as a directory and rely on a connection back to an on-prem directory like AD. With universal directory, you can also add the ability for end user to reset or change their AD LDAP password via Okta. And with lifecycle management, we add the ability for Okta to provision AD and LDAP as a downstream system. Both great point of differentiation. Note that both Universal Directory and Okta Lifecycle Management are a separate product which is not part of the SSO. And finally, we can integrate with the third-party identity provider. We usually see this with a customer who have a legacy on-prem SSO solution, such as CA, SiteMinder, or Ping. And the fourth and the final pillar is the real-time security reporting. So Okta records a whole host of rich data on all aspects of your user behavior, the who, when, where IP, and where the IP address is, device type, a browser type, application to access, everything you will be able to see into the logs of Okta. And of course, you can integrate with the SIM solution. There is a pre-integrated app with the Splunk and the ArcSight, which is already available. So let's move to the second agenda of the today's session, which is the Okta and Office 365. So this is the Okta's vision for the Microsoft integration to securely provide access to Office 365 with resources on Okta. Automate the Office 365 adoption for every identity from Okta and adopt a latest Windows 10 technology for with Okta. And federate multiple Office 365 domain with Okta. So even if you have multiple domain on Office 365, and you can seamlessly and centrally manage unlimited Office 365 domain with single Okta Office 365 app. And lastly, with Office 365 Connect on workflow, So this is basically an automation that we can create. For example, you can see uh, that you can have a rule or a automation. For example, if this kind of event happens, that Okta assigns the user to Office 365, and if a user's office location is in Europe, and then you can create a user in Office 365 and add the user to the Europe security group. So this one is possible with the help of, again, the lifecycle management. And this is the use case support. So you can see that on the left side, the Microsoft, and on the right side, the Okta use case support. So basically from a normal use case scenario, Microsoft is enough. You don't need Okta, but when you want to have a specific, when you want to have a specific feature requirement, or there is a use case requirement like acceleration, the reduction of AD and legacy dependency, then you will need Okta. Elimination of the domain user, organization complexity, and scalable domain sync. And also that time you will require Okta. Real-time provisioning and deprovisioning, that is the lifecycle management. So these are the features that Okta, or the use case that Okta supports and Microsoft doesn't. And this is the reason why you will need the Okta. So when we talk about Office 365 identity barrier, and if you're migrating to the Office 365, it can present many challenges. One of the greatest is the problem of the identity. How do you easily connect your existing users in Active Directory to Office 365 and keep it up to date? Active Directory environment can be complex and often contain incorrect data or the inconsistent data. If you're working with Microsoft or one of the partner to migrate to Office 365, you may be advised to go through a lengthy cleanup or the consolidation of the Active Directory. And migrating to the Office 365 requires you to understand and resolve the issue with the Active Directory. Otherwise, you can expect delay in decommissioning expensive on-prem system. And so in the following slide, we will examine, I will give you the information how Okta Cloud Identity Service can be useful to accelerate and simplify your Office 365 deployment while increasing the overall security. So when you are migrating to the cloud Office 365, the main question remains the who will be the source of truth, whether it will be on-prem Active Directory, or whether it's a Azure Active Directory, or what. So that is the first question. The second one, how you will sync the username and password from on-prem directory to the cloud. And if we look at the Microsoft deployment, the vast majority of Office 365 deployment are about migrating from on-prem to the Office 365. The most common scenario is moving Exchange to Office 365, and Exchange integrates heavily with Active Directory. And for many years, IT admin have invested massive time and effort in managing the user groups and other Exchange data in the directory. The main advantage for Exchange alongside with Active Directory was a single username and password for authenticating to Windows desktop and email. Active Directory username and password also used to be used for many other business applications like file servers, finance system, HR application, and so on. All this system integrated with Active Directory, and with it, companies achieve the single sign-on experience. Office 365, however, is a SaaS model. After user are migrated to Office 365, each employee ends up with a brand new user account in cloud. You could just stop there, tell the user their new Office 365 login detail. This is user and password, but lose the years of investment that to achieve the single sign-on in Active Directory. Users become frustrated because they now have to manage more than one password. An IT team become frustrated with disconnected environment. And pass-through authentication, that is the newest option that Microsoft introduced for synchronizing user to Azure AD and authenticate those user against the Active Directory in pass-through authentication with Azure AD Connect. This is much more lightweight SSO model than Active Directory Federation service, that it does not require larger scale server deployment, although end user credential are validated against the local Active Directory. And pass-through authentication may not meet the criteria for a larger customer, as it currently doesn't support deployment with untrusted Active Directory forest. Also, we need to note that both ADFS and pass-through authentication depends on Azure AD Connect server remaining up and running. So the choice here are not the quite ideal. Do you invest in building out and maintaining a highly scalable federated identity service with ADFS? Do you lose the benefit of a true single sign-on, deploy a single server to copy your password hash into Office 365? Or do you place your trust in a newer solution that has been optimized for large-scale Active Directory environment? Azure AD Connect, that is a Microsoft offers an alternative to deploy an ADFS, which is to use that directory synchronizations solution, Azure AD Connect. It also resides in an Active Directory domain, but makes an outbound internet connection to Office 365, copying your Active Directory data. So there is no need to manage public internet traffic into your corporate network. However, your network must be configured to allow Azure AD Connect to communicate with all the forest and domain where user identity resides. So with Okta Identity Cloud, you can achieve everything, all your which is your requirement from one single location. I will show you the demo as well. So how the application of the Office 365 federated SO and how you can replace the Active Directory. So Okta will bridge the gap between the Active Directory and the cloud without requiring any of the extra servers or the on-prem software. Like Azure AD Connect, Okta requires no network proxy or load balancer. There is no complicated certificate configuration and no need to manage traffic from public internet into the Active Directory environment. So Okta look at the functionality that resides in ADFS and Azure AD Connect and built a scalable version into our cloud solution. So Okta, we aren't running ADFS or Azure AD Connect. Rather, we have replicated same feature in our service on a modern cloud platform while using the same standard protocol and the interface that is used by ADFS and AD Azure Connect. So Office 365 user are not redirected to the login page hosted by your IT department, but instead to a cloud identity solution run by Okta. So that we will see. And this is again this one we discuss with the universal directory, how you can integrate with the Okta. If you have any Active Directory, you need to install the agent and that will sync your username and password with Okta on the cloud. And with this you will get a great user experience. Now that you understand how Okta connects to on-prem service, I will like to discuss how Okta Cloud Service connect to Office 365. So unlike ADFS, which requires you to set up certificates, review claim policy, and expose the service to the internet, we have pre-configured the connectivity to the Office 365 to help you easily set up WS Fed integration. You just need to go and search Okta integration network. In that, you will search for Office 365 app. and add it to your Okta uh, organizations. And you just need to provide few information like tenant name, domain, which is going to federate, and administrator username and password, of course. Okta will automate the entire setup of federation for you, and it will sync the all the username and password information as well. So I will just like to show you a small video how the Okta can integrate with Office 365 and the pass-through looks like. So this is a video from Okta itself. When user tries to log in into the portal of the Microsoft, how it will redirect back to the Okta itself. So let's just look at this demo. So as you can see, when they try to log in, it will automatically redirect to the Okta login page. And here, once I provide the username and password, of course, there is a two-factor authentication which has been set up. So it will send a push notification to the mobile, and once uh, one verify the second factor authentication on mobile, it will automatically logged in into the Office 365. So here you can see that it is now logging into the Office 365. As you can see that the username is correct. So now I'll log out, and they will log out from the Okta main portal as well, just to make sure that this process is correct. So again, portal.office.com. So if you try to click, it will automatically redirect to the Okta login page. So this is the customer's login page. And here they will have to use the username and password. So by the numbers, if I talk about, Okta will greatly reduce the time to deploy in a larger environment. Uh, Time to connect to the Active Directory is 1 week, and to activate Office 365 for thousands of users, around 2 weeks. And customers who are using Okta for Office 365 single sign-on, this is the most common application that we have integrated. It's more than 1,000. An average TCO saving for the enterprise using Okta is around 100K USD. So when you're provisioning a new employee, this is a general time that I calculated based on the multiple organization, that it will take 60 minutes to provide access to everything. But again, this is only time that IT team will actually required to create a policy or the username into application. But to get the approvals from all the different departments, there's a different task and the different email that will go on to take the requirement. So by doing, you can also enable the HR system to provision the user to allow access to all application, that is called HR as a master. So with that, you will require only 5 minutes to add a user, and once the HR team creates the username, it will automatically be created into the different application, and Okta will provide the access to all that application. So it will reduce the time greatly. So if we calculate, for example, 2,000 new employee, you will require 50 work weeks, whereas in Okta, you can imagine you will require within 1 day you can achieve all these tasks. So this is some of the customer that has eliminated the ADFS and deploy the Okta to achieve the single sign-on and the pass-through authentication for the Office 365 user. Of course, Adobe remains our one of the top customers, so use BOSS and the Stanford University. So you can see the deployment of the Okta was done within the 1 month on all the customers. So this is how it will reduce and accelerate the adoption of the cloud. So this is from my side in the presentation. If you guys have any query, do let me know. I will happy to answer. Thank you very much.